Thaddeus Gray Productions presents the finale of Unforgiven. Dear listener, now you shall witness Jacob's final fate, as well as certain loose ends finally brought to a close, as well as the fate of the three vampires in which it slaughtered David's family and ruined so many lives. I present to you once more Unforgiven, the finale. The Bimbo, who by now has grabbed David's hand in a grip of iron, stammers. I don't know who you think you are, bitch, but I'm going nowhere. The Redhead smirks, full lips tilting upward in amusement as the moron gulps. You two know each other? The woman responds, Aye, that we do. Her eyes flicker with fear as she releases David's hand and stands. Okay then. Yeah, I'm not feeling too great. I gotta go to the bathroom. She holds her stomach, as if nauseated, which indeed is the state of her being. James looks to the woman, whom has definitely taken control of things, and obviously settled a long-fingered hand on David's shoulder, with a strange, otherworldly, no, inhuman possessiveness, and he grows scared, fast. David himself tries to rack his brain to see in his memories where he has seen this red-headed goddess before. The boy's mind is like a steel trap. Had he seen one like this pale being here before, he would have remembered. Her hand is gentle on his shoulder, but he feels a subtle, hidden strength. James himself looks to the woman's figure, outlined by the crimson lining of the coat. He feels himself grow nauseous, and he coughs slightly. Despite this, blind lust and stupidity take over. He holds out his hand. Name's James. If my friend here doesn't know you, believe me, I would love the chance to. The woman places a long, nailed hand upon the fellow's shoulder. He winces, as she then calmly places a finger to his lips. She tells him, Shh. You look like you don't feel so good. Why don't you leave your friend to me? I'll make sure he gets home in one piece. She narrows her eyes, green eyes piercing the soul, as the bimbo stammers. To James, I think we should leave. James looks to David. Yeah, man, sorry, but you're on your own. The young man takes the idiot by the wrist, and they walk out of the club as if an immortal vampire were warding them off. Go figure. David is understandably pissed. He looks the taller woman in her eyes and scowls. He didn't have to do that. Scaring them off, I mean. She smirks, her full lips tempting to the young man. Hell, any fellow would be tempted. Her response is a simple one. That lass I set you up with had a negative bazillion IQ, for one. 2, we need to talk, dear boy. I've been looking for you for too damn long. All humor falls from her pale features as she grabs his hand. Her gaze is taken his will, and David realizes he cannot move a muscle to his shock and terror. Her grip is as cold as the grave, and while gentle, extremely so, he senses the strength of something beyond human in her hand. The woman speaks once more. I know you are frightened, and I cannot blame you one bit. I need you to trust me. I would not ever harm you willingly, and trust me, most I would not tell this. Do you understand me? Her hand gently massages the boy's tense knuckles as he hears her words. He still cannot move, but he can speak freely. He says to her finally, and release whatever hold you have on me. I know what you are. You're like those monsters that killed my fucking family, he says, rage filling his face and settling in his voice. The woman flinches as it's struck. Music plays in the background, so the young man's raised voice doesn't draw attention. Her green eyes flicker red for a moment, only seen by David's gaze. A lone tear stains her cheek as she says to him, "I have been searching for you for damn near 2 millennia. I'm taking a chance here. I'm going to release you. If you flee, I will not stop you. But I'm begging you, don't run away. I do not know what those others did to your kin, but I will do whatever I can to make sure they pay for it." David finds he can move with no issue. He stands for a moment, preparing to leave the woman who was obviously one of the things who had killed his parents and sister. However, something inside tells him to stop being a coward. It is as if his very soul were screaming in his head. He looks to her and finally sits back down, looking her in the eyes. His deep voice is soft as he says, "I feel as if I've known you all my damned life. Okay. I'm willing to take a chance here. You have one chance to explain things. Show me that you can be trusted." The woman contains her overjoyed emotions with a cold look and a nod as she exhales an unneeded breath. "Okay. We shouldn't talk here. I can take you somewhere safe, and we can talk from there, if you are willing to trust me." David sighs. "I am. But since I know you are like them," he means the vampires that killed his family, "maybe you can give me some answers as to why my family had to die." She closes her eyes and says, "I can explain things, and we will take it from there. Deal?" The man nods. The woman's height is a surprise to the young man, especially the fact she seems to relish the eyes upon her. She smirks and whispers down to him, "I couldn't help how I was born, so I learned to exploit it when I want to." She pauses, then continues, "I have grown used to eyes on me, I guess." Her voice holds some regret, despite trying to sound cavalier about it. David follows her, and she leads them to a very nice sports car. The boy says, "Wow, Maserati. You definitely like to roll in style." He obviously is trying to hide the fact he is downright terrified right now. He remembers his adopted father, Daniel, telling him, "Sometimes your heart and your head collide. Swallow the fear and do what you have to, especially when it comes to the things you seek in life." The woman relaxes and genuinely smiles as she beckons him to get into the passenger side. "Remember, trust," she tells him. He nods, and he gets into the car completely. The door is closed. The woman guns the engine, not caring of the people who stare, including James and the Bimbo, who had stayed outside despite being terrified from the club. James snorts. Lucky bastard. The woman whacks him as hard as she can in the head and walks off. "You were such a fucking loser. If that lady, I don't know, is a vampire or something and kills him, it's on you." James begins to feel a dead cold in his guts, and suddenly the booze wears off, and he forgets any desire to help anyone. He wants to go home, and that's exactly what he does. The woman drives them to a fairly nice home. It is classy, but not opulent. There is a man that stands at the door. She nods to him and says, "Go home, Stanley. You did your part for tonight. I need some alone time." The burly fellow nods and wiggles his brows, before she playfully flips him off. He snorts in amusement, looking from David to Mirrodin before leaving. "Do not mind Stanley. If you know what I am, then you wouldn't be shocked to know I brought him across 2 centuries ago." She sighs lightly. "He is mute. He did not have anybody. I took him in, and he earned his spot in just a few years. Come, sit." She tells the boy as she takes the heavy leather coat off and places it on a hook. David asks, what exactly is that thing lined with? My friend, he got sick. I saw that when he looked into it. She nods slowly. Aye, you're right. I did not want to hurt him, but for obvious reasons I needed to get you alone. He speaks in response, with some suspicion. Okay, sounds good. Now can you tell me what you are? I mean, are you like Dracula or something? She laughs, and it ain't a pleasant sound, as she then responds. That one is a bad one. In fact, it was me younger brother who made him. Luckily, before Da staked his maker, me brother. Well, I changed sides and fell in line fast. I, me boy, I am a vampire. David says after a bit of silence. That explains a lot. Now, why are you wanting to talk to me like this? I mean, you gotta understand, I saw my family sucked to literal mummies and tore apart in front of me. My own mind was turned inside out for years. You're obviously not like them, but I don't even know your name. The woman taps her chin in thought before responding. My name is Mirrodin. Originally, I believe it had been Mary, or something me father named me. I have not always sounded like a bumpkin from the Isles. I spent so much time there, however, with my mother's people, before it was even called Ireland. She chuckles. The accent stayed. I also know your name is David. Yeah, that's my name. Don't wear it out. But that doesn't explain why you've been seeking me for so long. I mean, I'm not even 21, but something in me feels like I've known you forever. She meets his gaze and grabs his hands once they are seated on the couch, a very nice one. I know. I ask you to trust me without due cause. But I can share my memories with you. And I will see yours also. It will save time and also answer your questions. The boy himself has no time to respond. The redhead reaches forward at a speed which the human eye cannot register. She firmly grabs his head and touches his forehead to her own. She whispers, Please, David, I need you to trust me. The desperation in her voice, and also the emotion, frightens him deeply. Mirrodin at first worries she made a mistake, that she had sensed the wrong soul within the boy, and all she had learned over 2,000 years when it comes to unsatisfied souls reincarnating was wrong. However, after a time, David begins to react. He gasps. They abandoned me. They let me... Oh God. Jesus! He obviously is under serious distress. The redhead curses herself for her selfishness in making his soul remember past events. However, she had to know. David coughs. They fucking crucified me. My own family. Just because I saw things differently. The Christos, They couldn't accept my faith, and they let those bastards crucify me. He closes his eyes tightly. Even now, the boy's voice catches in his throat. He coughs and feels her thin, powerful arms slip about his body, pulling him closer to her. He speaks after a time. You killed them. I saw your thoughts. You killed the bastards that freaking hung me on that cross. She rocks him back and forth, her body generating no heat whatsoever. Yet he feels arms with the strength of a hydraulic press gently offer him support. He then begins to remember the monsters that killed his family. His voice becomes raw with grief. Vampires, just like you, killed my parents and my sister. He hiccups with emotion as he begins to beat his fists on her shoulder. Of course he feels nothing, and it only hurts his hands. He finds himself being held at arm's length. Oh God, I'm so sorry. She gently brushes a tear away from his eye, and she does the same to her. Who were they, David? I cannot see beyond what you will allow me to see. 'Tis one thing of a past life's view from the soul, but your current thoughts are somewhat sealed. I don't want to talk about it. He shakes his head. We now focus to the present. Jake snorts. About time you fucking told me the connection. David rolls his eyes. Classy as always, Mr. Brogan. Yeah, sorry it took so long to get to the point, but it had to be done. In the order that was revealed for it to make any sense. So let me get this straight. You're a reincarnation of the Petros kid that got crucified, right? Yeah. The older man leans weakly forward in his chair, wincing from the pike in his shoulder. He speaks after a time. I don't know much about souls or any of that shit, but you already know my father was a hardcore Christian. And then some. That's something I was kind of taught was impossible. You only get one shot, then heaven or hell or purgatory. All sounds like bullshit. Yeah, like the fact you got your ass handed to you, and your balls, by a woman who was kind of tall, but you outweigh by well over 100 or so pounds. Or the fact you shattered your hand on her skin. Is that bullshit? Or what you found in my family's crime scene? That bullshit also? To David's surprise, the man ignores the jibe and responds. Guess you have a point, you little fuck. I do have one question. How the hell did you find your soul or whatever after so long? That's because restless souls that refuse to go to the light or haven't finished business. They can allow themselves to be reborn in a body at any time it desires. For whatever reason, my spirit waited until we knew we would have the chance to be reunited. Jake nods slowly and asks finally, so why did you wait so long to tell her about the freaks that killed your family? I mean, it could have shaved you a lot of grief. He coughs weakly. You would still be here, and all this would have happened regardless. Does it really matter? Jake nods weakly before coughing some more. God. Dave gives him some water. Yeah, thanks. So what happened after you told her you weren't spilling the beans, huh? David continues where he left off. Mirrodin can see the agony and pain in his eyes. She touches her forehead to his own and says, I can find him, and I promise you, David, I will erase their damn existence from this earth. After a moment of silence, the boy finally responds, No, not now. Please, stop asking me such things. It hurts too much to focus on it. She closes her eyes and kisses him. Her impulses having been denied for so long, the young man grips her tightly and responds, his lips pressed tightly to her own as things get heated from there. She controls that ungodly strength of hers, and as a result, feels for the first time in centuries, truly loved. Afterward, David wakes up, hugging himself from the cold. Mirrodin, of course, feeling room temperature in the heat or a snowstorm, feels nothing. She wears things as she does for blending in, or at times for the sake of the style itself. She knows she cannot warm him for obvious reasons personally, so she pulls her coat off the hook and slips it about his shoulders. His own body heat allows him to stop shivering as the coat is settled around him, and his form pulled close to the vampire's. He asks finally after a bit of time, I saw the lining of this thing. How it affected me and my friend, or was I just imagining things? She tells him, Nay, the silk which lines this coat was also dyed with my own blood. Me father and older brother taught me how to do this. It affects the mind slightly, in tandem with my own intentions and mental abilities. I am sorry for doing what I did to your friend, but he and those two banally stupid slags he and you were with had to go so I could talk to you. I can say they are all fine, maybe just a slight headache with each of them. I have to feed every other night, but I've learnt to be selective and not kill those I prey on. The only time I do is if I'm threatened or seek to avenge myself on another. When I first saw you, that is what I planned on for you. I wasn't going to harm you. But I might have left you with more questions than answers. At least in that one way. Surprisingly, he does not judge her for that. And with this, it gives her the courage to go forward in other affairs. I know I'm a monster, David. She pulls from him, noticing the thoughtful look in his eye. And I will not make you stay. I would not have killed you even if ye had not been who you were.
However, I failed you once, and I do not deserve a second chance, I know that. You saw my memories and what I did in making you a revenant. Even though it was to have you with me, I didn't...
He hugs her closely and says, "Look, I won't abandon you. I think you gave me a purpose, actually, Mr. Ridiculous." She smiles and kisses him.
Thank you for that.
We now focus on the present as David closes his eyes and exhales. The rest is pretty simple from here on out. There isn't much anything else to say. The well is dry, if you get my drift. Jake's eyes hold sadness, but the fear is long since gone. He says gently, "She's going to kill me, isn't she? Unfortunately, your body is so damaged there's no going back. And also turning you is not going to happen. She hates you pretty badly. But I do know it's going to be painless." Jake nods before leaning back in the chair. "Let's get this over with, then." David stands and leaves before returning to the room with the red-headed woman that is his lover. Mirrodin speaks gently.
David, if you do not mind, I need you to leave right now. This needs to be done without you here. Do you understand?
She grabs his hand and he squeezes it. He replies, "I'll be upstairs. I'm sorry, Mr. Brogan. I wish it could be otherwise." Once David leaves, the redhead asks softly, "Any last requests?"
He was right. I do hate you, and deeply. However, I do understand your actions, and I do not blame you much. We simply are on two different sides.
He ponders mocking her, but he decides to go out as he has always desired to, even if not before. Now he truly does. That is, as an honorable man. Two things. One, please, if you can, tell my ex-wife and my son I'm sorry. She raises a brow.
And the second thing.
He meets her gaze. I know you're one of the first 3 vampires. That's what David told me.
Aye,
That I am. He coughs slightly, growing weaker. Kill the fuckers that slaughtered that kid's family. They ruined both of our lives. Mine and his. Whatever you do, send them to hell. She nods gently and calmly, sets a hand on his neck.
I promise. I hope you find peace. She snaps his neck like a twig, ending his life instantly.
The woman picks up the corpse of the man who she just killed. The woman is a tall, willowy slip of a woman. Yet her vampiric strength allows her to lift the 250-plus pound man like a child. She calmly fires up an incinerator for times like this, which she keeps down in this part of the house. He burns quickly due to the heat, and she leans against the wall, eyes closed. David calmly walks back down the stairs and asks softly, "You okay?" She shakes her head.
I hated him. God, I hated him. But doing those things, I do not regret them. But I do regret you being here when I have to. I'm a monster, always have been since me 18th moon. But I love you. I do not want you to see me like I am. If I could, you found you sooner than...
The boy hugs the taller woman tightly to his chest. Hey, shh. It's okay. You don't have to be strong all the damn time. And also, I wish this didn't have to happen. But think on this. He got the answers he was after. I think you helped him more than anything else. She nods as she regathered herself.
He asked me to tell his ex-wife and son that he was sorry. Hilma, it won't be an issue there. I'll also have to find the bastards that killed your family. It'll give us all closure.
David wants to respond, but she puts a long, slender finger to his lips.
Remember? Trust me.
He holds her at arm's length and says, "Okay." It is all he knows to say. Jake's ex-wife has long since gotten on with her life, and their son is well into college and beyond, living his own affairs. However,
When she sees the writing from someone she doesn't recognize, telling her that Jake is dead, and also having found the answers he sought, the woman responds by crumpling the letter and throwing it in the trash. You idiot. I hope it was worth it. She ponders calling the cops, but instead, she calls Samuel, Jake's old partner. Sam does take the letter, which had been mailed to him once fished from the trash can. He notices, after doing an examination, that the writing has no traceable sign or origin. He runs scans on it to find out who wrote the damn thing in the first place. He finds that who wrote this letter had very long fingernails, but there are no prints whatsoever. None. That should be impossible. Residue would have been left from gloves. There was nothing. His blood runs cold as he steps back, remembering that scene from years ago. You found him, you son of a bitch. You actually found him. I hope whatever it is that happened to you helped you find peace, brother, he says, closing his eyes and tearing up. He burns the letter, his instincts telling him to do this. He never seeks further information. Guido, Benjamin, and Rixie, after the stunt they pulled on the Schweitzers in Houston so long ago, were driven into hiding. The publicity their impulsive action brought upon vampire kind was responded to very quickly. Benjamin, being a daywalker and a Meyerblood, was hunted down first to the damage he could cause. Mirrodin's older brother Nikolai was responsible for his final death. His forces had ripped the man asunder. Guido and Rixie fled to a small town in Alaska where they thought they could prey upon the population with impunity. It did prove true for many years. That is, until now. Rixie currently is very concerned. She had hit a local brothel, tricking a man into thinking she worked there. He had fought hard, but his fear was so freaking delicious, as was every drop of his blood. Many men she has seduced, and at times had her way with them before ending their lives. However, she feels her creator's pain due to their link. Of course, when a maker dies, so does their progeny, so understandably, she panics, heading back to their home. She makes it to the house they had built in the frozen barrens outside of the town. She hears her maker's tortured screams and allows her hands to turn into talons, kicking the door right off its hinges. Her doll-like face reveals all of her sharp-toothed rage, yet it is soon replaced by horror as she sees the one who made her. His obese form strapped to a chair, silver hands smoking against his flesh. He screams, "Run, Rixie! Run!" The redhead, who is dressed in black, smirks. You served your purpose. Now please, shut it. A dagger is slammed through the side of his jaw, silencing him as he weeps in agony. Rixie freaking loses it as she bellows in her agony and rage. You fuckers took Benny from me! You aren't taking Guido! Die, bitch! Mirrodin doesn't step away from her slash. Instead, she allows Rixie's claws to slash against her marble skin. The lesser vampire's claws shatter into pieces on the woman's flesh before she herself grabs Rixie by the throat. "'Tis funny. He begged you, and struggled, like you are now. Do not worry. You won't be going to hell alone." She telepathically ignites the woman's blood from within. Even if Mirrodin had not made her, all vampires are descended from her and her brothers. Malachi made you? I see now. Do not worry, one day I will do more than what my da did in just taking him. But that's our secret. The woman burns to ash, screaming as she then turns to Guido. Guido, still bound by the silver chains in the chair, snarls. You call us monsters? You are no better, you fucking ginger bitch! Mirrodin can barely understand him. Despite having removed the dagger, she simply crouches down in front of him, smoothing back the leather of her trench coat to get out of the way. You're right. I am much worse. She caresses his cheek with the dagger before sheathing it. She pulls open the folds of her coat and produces a reinforced small sword. Ah, I see you recognize a gladius. I've kept it with me since before I became what I am. I've repaired it here and there, 'Tis very good for killing children like you, who do not know their place. She slices his head off and throws him to the fireplace, the rest of his body turning to ashes. Once it is all done, she exhales, emotionally exhausted, as well as physically. It's at that moment that she pulls out a satellite phone, and with this, she begins texting. Stanley, you there? Of course, as a text is a response in the affirmative. She smirks slightly, and with this, she sends forth another text. Did you have Rebecca Abernathy talk to that Samuel fellow to warn him off? Again, the affirmative. And with this, she grins lightly and texts once more. So he will not be a problem then. Good. I am glad she was able to repay me that one favor. And with this, there's a question. She texts real quickly. Yeah. Tell my David I'm coming home. It's over. And with this, Unforgiven ends for now. I hope you enjoyed the final part of this very long series in which I did. So to say, I know it's not my most popular work, but in the end, ironically, it was definitely one of my favorites. Stay tuned. I plan on releasing more content as time goes on. Be blessed. Be safe.